welcome for those that don't know me. I oversee the WIC program here, so I'm the Director of Nutrition Services. So today our topic is all things sweet, specifically sugar. And so I thought it only appropriate that we feature a picture of our dog, and her name is Sugar, and she is super sweet. So of course, this is probably 10 years ago when she could actually still fit in the Build-A-Bear clothes. So anyway, she's going to be our cheerleader today. So our goal is, hopefully today, I want us to rethink our sweets. And so what we're going to be doing is identifying sugar in our diet, also determining about how much we're eating, and reviewing the health risks associated with high intakes of sugar, as well as how to decrease it, and then healthier alternatives. Okay, we love sugar, don't we? We love it. You know, we're born to like sweets for a reason. Our bodies need glucose, which we get energy from. But are you like Cookie Monster? Do you have a sweet tooth? Some people are like that, some people not so much. Most everybody loves sweets, but there you'll find some people that don't care for them, which is kind of odd for the rest of us. But with like Cookie Monster, you know, he craves it. You know, we crave it. We can't get enough of it. The more we eat of it, the more we want of it. And we, you know, it's a very endearing term. It's like, you know, we call people sweetie and honey, and all of these things are very positive to us. We use sugar as a reward. Yeah, thank you. We use it as a reward. You know, it excites and it motivates. We use it in our school system to reward our kids. We reward ourselves. We reward in a lot of different ways. We celebrate with sugar at every holiday and birthdays. So it can be a very positive experience, a social experience, and something that we have good memories around. And a little sugar is okay, so I'm not going to, you know, tell you that no sugar or absolutely none, because that would just be unrealistic for most people. But we do consume way large amounts of it and don't even realize it. So we are, like I said, we're born, a lot of us, with a sweet tooth. So it's not your fault. You know, it's not about willpower. We have things like our environment that also dictates how much sugar we take in. You know, we have lots of environments. We have an environment here at work. We have an environment at home. We have an environment out when we're at church. And so those places, sometimes we don't have control over what the options are. Also, the food industry, a lot of our products, as you'll see, have a lot of sugar in them. And so the food industry really drives what we purchase and the amount of sugar we consume. Is sugar killing us? So we're going to watch a video.
There's been a lot of talk lately about sugar being bad for you. It's a bummer, because sugar is the best, right? I mean, who doesn't like sweetness? You can eat on any other taste, and it's totally understandable. Bitterness, sourness, saltiness, umami. Yeah, that's right, umami. Apparently it's a taste. And you know what? Not everyone loves it. But sugar, pretty much everyone likes the sweet, sweet taste of sugar. But now some scientists are saying sugar is toxic. Really, scientists? Could you just look the other way on this one? We all know that sugar isn't healthy. It's not dangerous, right? Well, it turns out that it totally can be. Here's a sad statistic. For the first time in history, U.S. children are not expected to live longer than their parents. Why? A lot of it has to do with the fact that cases of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease are through the roof. There's another sad statistic. Today, 1 out of every 3 U.S. adults is obese. Not overweight, obese. 1 in 3. But what does this have to do with sugar? Sugar's been around forever, so why is it suddenly making us so sick? What changed? What changed is we dramatically increased the amount of fructose we consume. Fructose is the sweet stuff that's in sugar, and high fructose corn syrup, sugar's newer and cheaper twin. Fructose can do damage to your body in ways we are just beginning to understand. What kind of damage? Let's start with the nerdiest part of the body, the brain. Just recently, scientists discovered a hormone called leptin. Leptin's job is to tell your brain that your body's had enough to eat. Guess what gets in the way of that job? Sugar. When you indulge in soft drinks and junk food, your brain has a hard time recognizing leptin, so you stay hungry longer and eat more than you should. This causes problems with your pancreas. The pancreas produces insulin, which helps regulate your blood sugar. The more sugar you have in your bloodstream, the harder the pancreas has to work. In an overworked pancreas can lead to bad things: obesity, metabolic syndrome, and type 2 diabetes. When you consider heart disease and liver disease, both of which can be caused by sugar, then yeah, sugar is bad. Okay, cut down on the sweets, right? Not as easy as it sounds. High fructose corn syrup is now added to foods that never had sugar before, foods you wouldn't expect. In fact, a recent study found that 80% of the food items in America now contain added sugar. 80%. But, like a good raincoat, this trend is reversible. Educated consumers can change the way food is manufactured simply by making better choices. Food companies only make what we buy, right? So avoiding food and drinks with added sugar will force the food industry to produce healthier foods and stop adding sugar. But we have to start now, because sugar is killing us.
Would you turn a little? Okay. Okay, so most chronic diseases, and she mentioned several that are listed there, are preventable. We know through diet and increasing our physical activity, and because our diets are so poor and we are so physically inactive, we have a lot of these diseases that really are in our control if we make some changes to our lifestyle. Sugar is probably, if you met me on the street and said, what's the one thing I can do to help me to be healthier, sugar is the thing I would tell you is the biggest contributor with diet. It's also linked to dental disease, many types of cancer, and specifically within the metabolic syndrome that she mentioned. What that means is a cluster of conditions. Sugars contributes to high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high triglycerides, and low HDL, which is our good cholesterol, and then belly fat. There's also a growing body of research linking sugar to brain-related issues like Alzheimer's, and there's many that are also referring to that as a type 3 diabetes. Type 2 diabetics are more at risk for Alzheimer's. We know that. It also contributes to poor learning and memory. Sugar also dulls the brain's mechanism that tells us to stop eating. And most of you probably have had this experience that when you eat sugar, you want to eat more. And most people kind of can relate to that. Sugar has also been related to depression and anxiety. A lot of times people don't realize that the very symptoms of anxiety are actually low blood sugar. Also, sugar activates the reward system in the brain, similar to addictive drugs like cocaine. We have research to show that now. And so when we eat sugar, dopamine is released from the reward system in our brain. And of course, this makes us feel really good. And that's why it takes more and more amounts of that to make us feel that way. And we want to repeat that because it makes us feel good, really good. So sugar is addictive. And many of you may already know that about yourself. You've experienced that. Others may not have an issue with that. There are two types of sugar. Of course, bad sugar is the added sugar, but that's in breads and cakes and soft drinks, chocolates and ice creams, things that we know have sugar in them. But then also sugar, the added sugar that we have in foods that we don't expect, or what we kind of want to look at, because you want to know and make good informed decisions about what you're going to eat. Also, the other type of sugar is the good sugar. We want to continue to consume fruits and vegetables. Those are naturally occurring sugars that our body needs, our brain needs. The average American consumes 130 pounds of sugar per year. So these are 5-pound bags of sugar. 200 years ago, we were consuming 2 pounds a year. So it's gradually increased over time. So where is it coming from, or where can we find it? Most of it's coming from soft drinks. It's found in the fluid form, and then there's 19% that are found in grain-based desserts like the cookies, cakes, and pies, 16% in candy, and 9% in frozen desserts and flavored milk. So the other part is when we go to the grocery store and we consume processed foods, anything in a container, 75 to 80% of what we purchase in those aisles contain sugar. So that's why shopping on the perimeter of the store is the healthiest foods are out there, whole foods, meats and dairies and fruits and vegetables. Those don't have added sugar. I'm going to watch another video.
Sugar is playing hide and seek with you. You'd think it would be pretty easy for you to win, considering all the sugar in sodas, ice cream, candy, and big white bags labeled sugar. People get about half of their added sugars from those drinks and treats, so it might seem like sugar is hiding in plain sight. But like someone in a witness protection program, the other half is hidden in places you least suspect. Check the ingredients on ketchup, bologna, spaghetti sauce, soy milk, sports drinks, fish sticks, and peanut butter. You'll find sugar hiding in most of those products. In fact, you'll find added sugars in 3/4 of the more than 600,000 items available in grocery stores. But how is sugar hiding? Can't you just look on food labels? It's not that easy. Just like your friend Robert might go by Bob, Robbie, Rob, Bobby, or Roberto, added sugar has a lot of aliases. And by a lot, we don't mean 5 or 6. Try 56. There's brown rice syrup, barley malt, demerara, Florida crystals, muscovado, and of course, high fructose corn syrup, sometimes called HFCS, or corn sugar. Even sugar's tricky nicknames have nicknames. Grape or apple concentrate has the same effect on your body as its 55 sugar twins. And even though organic evaporated cane juice sounds healthy, when you evaporate it, you get sugar. Chemically speaking, it's all the same. And even trickier, when multiple added types of sugars are used in one product, they get buried down in a long list of ingredients. So the sugar content might appear to be okay, but when you add them all together, sugar could be the single biggest ingredient. Currently, the FDA doesn't suggest a recommended daily limit for sugar, so it's hard to tell if 65 grams in a bottle of soda is a little or a lot. But the World Health Organization recommends limiting sugar to 5% of your total calories, or 25 grams per day. 65 grams is well over twice that amount. But just what is sugar? What's the difference between glucose and fructose? Well, both are carbohydrates with the same chemical composition of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But they have very different structures and behave quite differently in our bodies. Glucose is the best source of energy for nearly all organisms on Earth. It can be metabolized by all organs in the body. Fructose, on the other hand, is metabolized primarily in the liver. And when your liver gets overloaded with sweet fructose, the excess is metabolized to fat. Fresh fruits actually contain fructose, but it's naturally occurring and doesn't cause an overload because the fiber in fruit slows its absorption. This gives your liver the time it needs to do its job. It's sugar that makes cookies chewy and candy crunchy. It even turns bread crust a beautiful golden brown. It's also a great preservative. It doesn't spoil or evaporate, so the foods it's added to are easier to store and ship long distances and tend to be cheaper. That's why sugar is hiding everywhere. Actually, it might be easier to list the foods that added sugar isn't hiding in. Things like vegetables, eggs, meat, fish, fruit, raw nuts, even your kitchen sink. Simply choosing water over soda
So you really have to be a sugar detective to decipher how much sugar you're really getting when you're buying those products. And like she mentioned at the end, your safest bet are your whole foods, gravitating towards foods that don't come in a package. But I know that that's not always realistic. So a lot of it is just about being aware of the foods that you're buying and figuring out how much sugar is really in this product and how much sugar should I keep my levels at. And the American Heart Association sets limits on sugar. We don't need sugar, by the way, but we're going to consume it. So they've made recommendations that men consume no more than 9 teaspoons a day, which is about 150 calories. Women no more than 6 teaspoons of sugar a day, which is about 100 calories. And so the average adult's consuming maybe 22 teaspoons a day. That's about a half a cup of sugar. More alarmingly is that children are consuming more than we are. So tweens and teens are consuming large amounts, and 4 to 8-year-olds are consuming 21 teaspoons a day. So that's a lot of sugar for these young people. Okay, so we have to read our labels if we want to know how much sugar is in them. And so 4 grams, so when we look at the label, we're going to look at 1 or 2 of those. You want to know that 4 grams of sugar equals 1 teaspoon. So you're going to divide that number into the grams of sugar, and that'll tell you how many teaspoons is in that product. So FDA is coming out with a new label to kind of help address this issue because they know that people are not aware of how much sugar they're consuming. In this old label, like a carton of chocolate milk would have some natural sugar in it, but it would have added sugar in it. And now, if you look at the one on the right, it's going to be broken out to show what part of the total sugar is actually the added sugar. Also, they made the calories bigger and bolder so people can see that better. And also the serving sizes have changed to be more reflective of what people are actually consuming, the amounts or the sizes of those servings. But mainly what I want you to be aware of is just the total sugar and added sugar. I'm not a fan of breakfast foods. I think they're one of the highest sugar content foods. They are grain-based, processed grains. They turn to sugar, but also they have added sugar. But if you're going to eat them, it's good to be aware of some of these guidelines. First of all, the first 3 ingredients are going to tell you what's most prominent in that package. So you can see on that one that sugar is the second one on there, but it also has brown sugar syrup, corn syrup, so molasses, several terms like the video indicated. So you can look at the ingredients list is a really great place to go. And again, this newer label that you're going to see this summer and over the next year is going to actually tell you how much total sugar is added in grams. So if you're going to eat the cereal, you want to keep that to 6 grams or actually less than 6 grams of sugar per serving. And a serving is a half a cup of cereal. I don't know anybody that actually eats just a half a cup of cereal. So the WIC approved labels that you see at the grocery store, those cereals are, according to these guidelines, they are going to be your lower sugar cereals. So that's a good thing to look for. With granola bars, those are going to be ones that if they're 100 calories, less than 5 grams of sugar is what you kind of want to look for there. A lot of those are not 100 calories. They're probably 200 calories at least. This is one of my biggest pet peeve foods because just look at the marketing. See the big dollops of icing, but yet it's cholesterol free. And it's got a good source of 6 vitamins and minerals. It's got 4 of the B vitamins. It's marketed like it's a healthy breakfast food, but honestly, you'd be better off giving your kid or yourself a candy bar and a multivitamin than sending them out the door. So it's really high in sugar. One pastry is 200 calories, and it has 19 grams of sugar, I think, if I can see that correctly. So that's 5 teaspoons of sugar. Children, 1 to 3-year-olds, are, we need to keep them at less than 3 teaspoons or 3 teaspoons or less. So for kids and women, you're done. Yogurt also is one of those things that a lot of people think is really healthy, but most of the yogurts that are out there are not. Again, the second ingredient is sugar. This one has marketing on it that says 25% less sugar, but it's still 4.5 teaspoons of sugar. Before, over on the right, you can't tell, it talks about how they reduced it. It was 6 teaspoons of sugar. So they helped you out a little bit there, but and said it's 25% less sugar, but that's kind of like, you know, you've got something you want to buy and it's $500 and they mark it down to $450. Well, it's still too expensive, right? So where do you start? First of all, you know, this may not be an issue for you, so you'll need to look at other things as your starting point. But don't drink sugar. Look at your beverages. They are the biggest contributor to weight gain. The research has strongly indicated that. So it's a great place to start. We have become just this society of bigger is better, you know, supersizing everything. So you can see how the sizes go up, and most people want their money's worth. They want that bigger size for that price that they've kind of marketed as a better buy. So that 64-ounce double gulp, I think is what it's called, is 48 teaspoons, which equals 1 cup of sugar, which is about 720 calories. So this is including not just soda, but juice, sweet tea, coffee, drinks, sports drinks, everything. So this just shows a little hard to read from back here, but people love their coffee drinks, but it's probably one of the biggest contributors of added sugar. It's the Frappuccino on the left there has 18 teaspoons. Okay, so that's about 3 days for me. I can't have anything for 3 days. If I go by that 6 teaspoon a day recommendation, for men, that's twice as much as what they need in 1 day. So, and then orange juice, a lot of people think that's a great thing to start their day on, but it's really just it's a natural sugar, but your body interprets it the same way and processes it. Your pancreas has to work to take care of that. And so there's a lot of oranges that go into that. It's just better to eat the orange, get the fiber, you'll be more satisfied. And then sports drinks on the end there, a lot of people think they and their kids need these drinks to stay hydrated. Most nobody needs this for hydration. Water and, you know, maybe a banana after a workout or something is going to be adequate, but most people do not need these drinks. And then I just wanted to point out, this shows again the different sizes of serving sizes for all of these different drinks, but I wanted to point out for children, if you'll see again, 3 teaspoons for 1 to 3-year-old. But that juice drink, which I have one down here when we turn the lights, this teeny tiny box is 4 teaspoons, almost 4 teaspoons of natural sugar. But that's, you know, a lot of our kids are just walking around just sucking juice down all day long. And then also infant juice, same way. That's almost about 4 teaspoons of sugar in that. Infants do not need juice. Nobody needs juice, just fruits and vegetables. So this is a day of beverages to show you the calories and how they add up. And so I just want to point out that liquid calories and food calories are very different. Our body interprets those very differently. So when we consume liquid calories, versus food calories are really satisfying. So we eat less food when we eat that food in its whole form. But when we drink our calories, we gladly eat additional calories on top of that. We don't offset that like we do with food. So, tips for reducing sugar, you know, rethinking your breakfast. I mean, that's the first thing that we start our day on. If you eat breakfast, looking at things like, you know, doing a smoothie. We've given you some ideas here with trying a couple of different smoothies where you can do fruits and vegetables. You can do eggs with vegetables if you're an egg person. Oatmeal, I love steel cut oats as an option for people, and that's a single whole grain. It's not got a lot of added ingredients. If you want to do yogurt, get the plain yogurt, add your own fruit. And then leftovers are really my ultimate favorite. If you can really, a lot of us were raised on breakfast food, so it's hard for us to wrap our brains around that. But honestly, just, you know, some chicken and vegetables or some leftovers from the night before, but sticking with more of those, you know, meats and vegetables and things for your breakfast is a great way to start the day. Reading labels and just being informed. You know, you can't make changes if you don't know, and you really need to start looking at labels if you do want to make better informed decisions. Also, change your environment. Look at the environments you have control over. You may not have control over your kid's school. You may not have a lot of control over work, but if you do, be considerate of that. But at home, most of us, you know, you got to think about your spouse or a significant other or others in that household, but work together to say, you know, we're going to change our environment at home because we can control that. And if it's not in our environment at home, then we're not going to, you know, again, it's about setting up your environment so that you make automatic healthy choices. If you know you're bringing something home that you have a problem with, then it's kind of like, you know, go back to that addiction factor. I always used to tell people when I was, you know, working with counseling that it's like putting a line of cocaine in your household and telling a cocaine addict you can only have one line, but you can't have any more. So if you have a problem with sugar, it's really no different. You have to remove it from the environment. Also, we already talked about cutting back or eliminating the sugar-sweetened beverages. So if you're looking for some alternatives, there's tons. It's a little overwhelming when you go to the grocery store. There's just too many options there. But if you can kind of, if you like carbonated drinks, there's a LaCroix down there on the end. It's kind of a flavored water, but it's carbonated. It's not my favorite. I don't really particularly like it, but a lot of people do. And that's something that just has basic ingredients in it. That's a perfectly fine option. Another alternative to that is I love using the sparkling water, which I've got a couple of bottles here on the table that you can, it's got that carbonation, but it's just a mineral water. It's nothing more than that. And then you can add maybe some fruit juice, 100% fruit juice, just a little bit to flavor it, or some lemon, or something else. We like to use, or I do like to use the cherry juice. I've got a bottle back there that's actually the concentrated cherries. That's actually very good for you. It helps increase your melatonin levels. It helps after you exercise to reduce muscle soreness and joint pain. So, that's a healthy alternative. If you just, I know, I get it, water can get really boring for people. And if you're not used to drinking water, you do have to look at some alternatives to kind of help. You can also do, as the picture indicates, infusing water or fruit and vegetables into your water, and that's really refreshing and it works great. You can also use teas and things like to along with that. But if you do buy juice, make sure it is 100% juice. And again, it can be a great way to kind of help decrease your intake of sugary drinks if you use it more as a flavoring. So healthier sweetening options on the table, or I have on the table, and you guys probably picked up, I don't think you got a copy of this. Some options for sweeteners, because I know it's not really realistic just to say you're just not going to have it at all. The smoothies have a little bit of pure stevia. That's something that you can use if you're trying to gravitate down and get your sweet acuity down, so you don't, as you decrease sugar, things become sweeter to you, so you need less. So you can use something like pure stevia from a plant, and I have the bottles downstairs. I forgot to bring those up for you to look at. But that you can get like at Hy-Vee or at a health food store, but you want to stay away from the packets like the Trivia and things that's just the general grocery store, because those have a lot of added ingredients. So, but this just kind of shows you some alternatives that actually have nutrients, like honey and dates, things like that actually have some nutrients in them. And again, it's still going to be sugar in your body, so you need to be aware of that if you're wanting to cut down, to still kind of be judicious with how much you add to your diet. But this does give you some alternatives and how you can use it. And then on the back, it shows kind of how to substitute those in for other things that you're trying to remove. So it can be some different options for you, make it a little bit more realistic. And then also there's handouts, the front and back, there's smoothie recipes. You can go on the internet, but if this is something you're interested in, then definitely I encourage you to try to incorporate them into your day. It's a good way to add vegetables and fruits that you may not otherwise get in, and it's better to use not juicing, because that removes fiber and things, but actually a blender. And there's a lot of great blenders out there. You just need to ask around. Other people are using them. They're pretty much available anywhere, and Amazon's always great. Sam's has some good options, Walmart, about any of them. So the smoothies that you tried today, they have, can anybody tell me what they think the secret ingredient in the tropical? You want to try the smoothie? Does anybody want to tell me what they think the secret ingredient in the tropical one is? Is it a vegetable? It is. Spinach. Nope, you're close. It's kale. And so you can kind of tell by looking at it. What's the secret ingredient in the strawberry banana one that's the vegetable? Does anybody have any ideas about that?
I didn't taste it.
Okay, wait for it, it's cauliflower. So it's got cauliflower in it. So Brian's like, what? You didn't know that? He's never surprised by anything. He's really not. So anyway, so just to show, just takes, don't be, it's a little intimidating, I think, starting out with doing some smoothies, but you're going to have some failed attempts. You're going to have some stuff that just doesn't taste good. And that goes with cooking. And you just have to kind of play around with it, and you'll figure it out. But I didn't mention, I'm not a fan of artificial sweeteners, so that's your choice. I think it's another chemical, and it also does the same effect on our brain and our body as sugar does, so you're really not doing yourself any favors substituting sweeteners. The stevia, used judiciously, in small amounts, I think is a good alternative. It just comes from the plant stevia, and so that can be a great alternative if you just, because with smoothies sometimes you just need a little something, especially when you're starting out. So anyway, does anybody have any questions? And there's drinks on the table if you want to look at those and see the sugar content. Here's a Mountain Dew that is literally half a cup of sugar. That, and this bug juice, which I think a lot of times we think, as parents and grandparents, we have our kids, you see how excited they get when they get sugar? Okay, so now you see the reason for that is that it actually does something to their brain. That's why they're getting all excited. And so knowing that should disturb you a little bit, but if not, that's fine too. It takes a while for us to get there with things. But bug juice, this has almost 7 teaspoons of sugar, not to mention food coloring, which has been linked to hyperactivity. And we all complain about how hyper kids are and all these things with their behavior. Well, if we look at what we're putting in their bodies, their behavior is going to improve. But that's challenging, and I get that. It's hard. Sugar is very pervasive in our diet, so, you just have to start somewhere, and, each day is going to be a little different. Sugar is here to tell you that some days are going to be rough, and you just have to roll your toilet paper back up and start over again the next day.